Hello YouTube, this is Morgan, Airspeed Prime here at my next Sword Art Online episode review. This one's going to be for the OVA called Sword Art Online Extra Edition. So yeah, basically what this is, for anyone who doesn't actually know, it's basically a recap kind of OVA film type thing that recaps the first and second arc of the show, so the Aincrad arc and the Alfheim Online arc. And you get some new animation of basically the reason why the characters are recapping it, because there is a reason why they tell the story of what happened to them. And then the last 22 minutes, basically, you get a new episode, which is basically one of the first quests that Kirito's team goes on in Alfheim Online. So it does act in a way as an episode 26 because it does address some of the stuff that's kind of very relevant to the end of the ALO arc. But we'll get into that towards the end of the video. So I think the main thing to say is that this is an hour and 40 minutes long, this feature. And, definitely like about an hour of it is just recaps of clips from the show, which you would expect from this sort of thing. And definitely the highlight is the little scenes of new animation and new voice acting that lead into these clips and give those clips meaning. So I think they do those very nicely, and they also kind of add music over certain key recap moments as well. That wasn't just like they played this music in the episode. No, they kind of play the opening intro theme over like a really powerful moment from the first arc to make it clear that this is a big moment and stuff like that. So, for what is effectively just a complete recap thing, I thought it was a kind of very well done one, in that you did get some nice interactions from the characters as they talked about it. So, the main setup here for why they actually have to tell this story is that basically, who is it? It's Rika, Keiko, Asuna, Sugaha, and Kirito are basically just kind of they decided they'd go out to this kind of swimming pool and stuff like that to help teach Sugaha how to swim, because she doesn't know how to swim. And they are going to go later on a quest which requires swimming underwater, because it's a quest that Yui wants to go on to meet a whale in the game, because she missed obviously Kirito and Asuna's adventure with the fisherman and the giant king of the sea kind of monster they had in that game. So she wants to see a really big animal in this game. And so Sugaha needs to know how to swim so she can join them on the raid party. But before Kirito can join the girls, he has to go to see the counselor about his grades. But when he arrives at the counselor's office, he finds out that what he's actually there for is that the guy from basically the Ministry of Virtual Reality government, part of the government, is there to ask Kirito some questions and just get more concrete information on the full details of what happened in both the SAO and ALO incidents. So this guy's name is Kikuoka, and he basically just asks Kirito questions, and Kirito responds to them, and we get a little bit of flashback every single time. Meanwhile, the girls are obviously in the swimming pool, and in between teaching Suga how to swim, they all discuss how they first came to meet Kirito, and so you get some of the flashbacks through them, and you get some of them through Kirito, and I think all things considering, it's really well, it's pretty well done. Just the fact that it would make sense that Kirito, he's the one who finished the game, he completed it, he was involved in most of the key events that happened, so of course they'd go to him for like the key summary of what happened. And with him, you get some nice moments as he just reflects, 2.5 years on from basically getting trapped in the game, that he just remembers all of this stuff, that like it was such a kind of big moment. He explains why he was a solo player at the start, why he was involved in the boss race despite being solo, how it was tough doing the bosses, but the players were even more difficult to deal with when they turned orange and red. But definitely, I thought the girls' side of the episode was much more interesting, primarily because yes, we know Asuna well, yes, we know Sugaha well, but mainly individually. So it was interesting to just see those two interact. Plus, Lisbeth and Silica were primarily confined to the episodes that they were in. Their kind of solo episodes. I think it was, what was it, 4 and 7 from the first arc. So it was interesting to get to see those two interact with Asuna. Plus, all three of the kind of SAO girls interact with the kind of primarily ALO girl in Lifa Sugaha. And it was just really interesting. Of course, there's a lot of fan service. Like, I do think a lot of the reason they went for this was that just the setup for this, they could get a lot of fan service scenes out of it, and they definitely went pretty heavy on that throughout the whole thing. Even going into like the kind of episode towards the end, the new quest that they go on, you get to see a lot of swimsuit action in this episode. Especially like Lisbeth, she was very touchy feely and wanting to know all the details about Kirito and Asuna's relationship and stuff like that. So she was pretty fun throughout the whole episode. But you know, these sort of things, of course. SAO didn't have a beach episode during its run, so of course the OVA gave you kind of something you usually expect, because most animes get a beach episode at some point. Again, they didn't go overboard with it, which I liked, but it was just like, okay, fan service, get to see everyone in their bikini, whatever. But yeah, there's definitely some nice moments here, just like seeing Silica kind of talk about how the first time she met Kirito and just how they kind of were drawn to his kind of weirdness and intensity. And obviously, you have Lisbeth talk about the connection she found with Kirito, and then they kind of all turn to Asuna, and she's kind of being very quiet about the whole thing, and she's forced to kind of explain the whole story. And they focused a lot on her, obviously, because she was the main female character from the first arc, and it was just interesting to see her just talk about and especially the scenes that they chose to show the key moments in their relationship. They were definitely the ones I would have chosen. And just how they met, and Silica and Lisbeth are kind of enthralled with this, because the big thing with them is that they both kind of like Kirito as well, so they really want to know kind of, okay, how do you actually become popular with boys? Like, you're dating Kirito. How does this work? And then they kind of start to probe a little bit more, just like, how far did you two go in the game? And Asuna starts to get really flustered. That was nice. And I just like this moment where I think it was Lisbeth said to her, like, wait, so does this mean that you fell for him before he fell for you? And they're all a bit shocked by this. And then they were just like, whoa, you were surprisingly aggressive doing this. And she was just like, it's probably one of my favorite lines in terms of new content. It was just like, but I was in love with him. And she just kind of mumbles it out, but they're all like, oh, that's so cute and stuff like that. So that was a really nice moment in the episode. But then basically it switches over to the ALO incident, and you get obviously like Sugaha getting more attention here and talking about things. And again, you can see that she's still getting over her kind of feelings for Kazuto, and kind of doesn't really want to let everyone else know about all the weird misunderstandings that happened. But just makes it clear that she and her brother weren't very close up until fairly recently, and how the game kind of brought them together, and she came to love the virtual world as well, and she now has that connection with her brother. And it was a fairly kind of to the point recap, but they hit the key emotional points from both arcs, I think, very well. And some of the new interactions were actually quite well done. Just stuff like Kikuoka is kind of telling kind of Kirito, is just like, who's that text from? It's your princess, isn't it? And stuff like that. So like, he knows about that. And just even some of their interactions about Kayaba and stuff like that. Like, he wants to know the exact details and why Kayaba did what he did. And Kirito's not really adding a lot to the whole situation on Kayaba, because Kirito definitely he doesn't really explain Kaiba's involvement really in the ALO bit at the end, just to keep that kind of thing that Kirito kind of knows he's not evil, but you know there's that. But the key part to talk about in this is the proper full new content. They stop the recaps basically with 22 minutes to go. Like it is literally the length of a full episode once they get past the last recap moment from the end of the ALO arc. They go straight into basically Kirito's done with basically recapping everything. They all go into the game and join up, and what do they do immediately to start things off? They start off on the beach in game, and you get to see the girls in game in their bikinis, just because everyone looks different, especially Sugaha and stuff like that. And it's just like, okay, more fan service. But I like the way they played off Klein in this, because Klein and Eagle are there, so Klein is just like the sun's Klein and Kirito are just like, the sun's great, being lying on the beach, it's so relaxing, and the view, and they were just both really like that. And then he obviously has a disappointing moment when they're about to start the quest. The girls walk out of the water and immediately put all their armor on. It's just like, oh, I thought we were gonna go on this quest in our like swimwear and stuff like that. But that was just a funny little moment. But yeah, they kind of gave the recap little moment about where Yui's want to ride a whale came from, basically. And I did like the funny little moment that Yui's riding around on Pina the whole time, because obviously Silica's there, so that was cool. And also, I did like the little bit of the recap when they brought up Yui to Asuna, and they were just like, wait, where did she come from? We never heard that story. And like Silica talks about how kind of cute Yui is, and how they're all going to try their best to help her because they really like her too. And you had a little bit of kind of Asuna's pride as a mother when she kind of talks about Yui and stuff like that. And Lisbeth made the joke, just like, you're very proud as a mother for being a teenager and stuff like that. And she's just like, I'll take that as a compliment, thank you. So I like that as well, the fact that they did bring up Yui and address that. So, yeah, the recap was just that Asuna and Kirito were telling Yui about basically what happened to them immediately after kind of she disappeared. Basically, they had to turn her into Yui's heart just to save her, and the whole incident with the fishing tournament and Kirito pulling up the king of the lake and stuff like that, and making a joke at Kirito's expense that he was running away, and how the only reference she has for what a whale is that she roughly knows just from being like a program, kind of how big a whale is and comparing it to other stuff, but she's never actually seen one because she can't see the real world. So everyone really wants to give Yui a chance to see this thing that she actually wants, and so they're going on this quest purely for her, and they swim underwater. You have the moment where Lifa struggles a little bit, but Asuna helps her, and they just set that up. And then when they arrive at the place, they obviously meet the guy at the front, the NPC who starts the quest for them. And Lifa kind of thinks she recognizes something with the name, but kind of brushes it off. And I like that with this quest, they address this thing, and that the key point of this quest wasn't the action or the fighting. It was just this idea sometimes in RPGs, it's just like, are the NPCs telling you the truth about what you're meant to do? If an NPC tells you to go and steal this thing, go and kill this thing, are you actually doing the right thing in the grand scheme of the world? And that came into play here, and that the quest was called like Deep Sea Plunderers, and everyone thought that they was referring to like thieves and they were stealing something back from thieves, when in fact, if they had gone through with the mission as they were meant to, they would have been the thieves, and they would have been giving it to the Kraken, Lord of the Abyss, the evil thing. And, they gradually realized at the end that that was wrong, and didn't give the egg, who's going to hatch into the new ruler of the sea, to the NPC. So it was just this nice little moment where they addressed this kind of doing the right thing in the virtual world, and that all of these characters are characters who understand how real the virtual world can be, and so they wouldn't want to do something in game that makes them come across as the bad guys, and so that's why they specifically didn't want to uh, do the, I suppose, evil side of the quest, I suppose. Um, but yeah, not much action really as we go through this. The main thing they deal with here is that they very quickly bring up the fact that Kirito talks about how, okay, even though him and Sugihara are closer, it's still kind of awkward between the two of them, just because it isn't that long after basically all of this issues came up with the end of the ALO arc, and they're fine on their own, but with a group, he doesn't really know how to act with her. Like, how does he just be a brother to her and stuff like that around everyone else? And he kind of realizes what he needs to do here, and she realizes that, as much as she hasn't had her brother for so long, he was there for her before the past, and the reason she doesn't know how to swim is because she was kind of afraid of the water a little bit after an incident years ago where she fell into a pond, and Kazuto saved her then, and that relates into what happens in the middle of this dungeon where Lifa jumps into a fight, gets caught in a kind of tornado underwater, and is about to kind of get sucked down, but Kazuto dives in crazily and saves her. And it's just this kind of moment where when he saved her before in the past, she had her brother, and since then she hasn't, but now she has her brother back, and I think that was the kind of idea that they were going for here. It's just that um, that things are kind of back to the way they were before, but they're almost closer now because they have the virtual world, the game, to relate to each other with. So I thought that was pretty well done. You didn't get massive character stuff during this whole kind of quest. It was very quick and to the point. You get a few jokes from Klein. Egel made a few jokes as well, and Silica and Lisbeth always are a nice kind of a duo to have together, just the way they kind of play off each other. They just save the day, and what happens obviously is that the guy is revealed to be the Kraken, and he turns into this boss, and you think that they're going to have this big fight to end the episode, but no, it's actually this kind of scripted event where maybe if they're on the crazy high stat level they can defeat this boss, but for the most part this is a boss they're not meant to defeat. They're meant to be just about not killed by this thing, which ends up happening. And what ends up happening is that Leviathan, Lord of the Sea, basically Poseidon, a type character, arrives and kind of scares off the Kraken, takes the egg back, and then he basically gives them the trip on the whales to bring them back to the surface. And you basically end there with Yui on Pina, just flying above over whales, and she's got what she wanted, and the group is together again, and the brother sister bond between Kirito and Lifa is fixed, and it's better now, and it's still going to take some time to kind of settle down after all the craziness that's happened recently, but it's definitely on the right kind of path. So it worked really well, I felt, as a kind of bigger epilogue to the ALO arc, in just, yes, addressing a little bit more of what needed to be addressed from the end of the ALO arc, plus just, I think, having this great connection of the Aincrad arc and the Alfheim Online arc, with basically this being one of the first group quests that they go on after all of these incidents are happening. So Kirito is the leader, Lifa's involved, and everyone else, and they're doing this in New Aincrad and stuff like that. So that it worked nicely in that sense, and just setting up that this is the main game that this group plays. This is what they have their kind of party quests and stuff like that in. This is what they play, and I thought it was very well done. Not much else to say, Definitely, it's very easy to criticize this just for the sheer amount of just recap clips, but at the same time, you go in knowing that that's basically what it's going to be. you're not getting 100 minutes of brand new content completely. But they did enough with this recap, I think, with the new voice acting, with the new animation in the middle of the recaps, plus the new episode that you got at the end, to just about make it kind of worth watching a couple of times. And even the clips themselves, I thought they chose them kind of pretty well to represent the arcs overall, and the lead into them linked in nicely with the emotional themes. And as I said before, I like what they did with the music as well, playing the intro and outro for both arcs over key moments from each arc to get across how the really powerful moments from each one. So that has been the review for Sword Art Online Extra Edition. Tomorrow I will start the Phantom Bullet arc. I'll start Sword Art Online 2 with the review of the first episode. And of course I'm going to be reviewing the dub. What I'm hoping to do is that even though I don't have the light novels for these or the DVDs, they're not out here yet, I still will watch the dub episodes, and hopefully I will get through them quick enough to the point where I will catch up with the dub just before it finishes airing the SAO2 episodes, and I can review a few of them at the end weekly as they come out. And I'm in a really good position in terms of covering Sword Art Online going forward. So that's my plan. So Sword Art Online 2 reviews start tomorrow. But for now, thanks for watching this video, and bye.